My addiction is embarrassing and I'm ready to share it. This will be proof to you how deep and intertwined our bad habits, compulsions, and behaviors can be. And for the record, everyone ends up addicted to something at some point. It's not just drugs and alcohol. You can be addicted to work, exercise, external validation, negative excitement, procrastination, sugar, male attention, shopping, your phone. I even have a friend of mine in my support group that's addicted to the game Candy Crush, and it's a legit real addiction. Here's how you know if this habit of yours has escalated into an addiction. If it comes with a negative cost of your physical health, emotional well-being, your spiritual connection, your goals, your finances, or your relationships. I mean, let's be real. No one has ever said that salad is ruining my life. As a great leader, I know in order to best help you, I have to be vulnerable first. Hi, I'm Tiffany, and I'm an ice cream addict. You may have just laughed, and that's okay. It does sound silly. And I've laughed and made jokes at my own expense about it too, to minimize it, which you might be doing that as well around chocolate, cookies, not working out, being lazy, being a procrastinator, being easily distracted. There's a hint in there if you're using that like self-deprecating humor, making a lot of jokes about it. But here's when I knew it was a deeper problem. I started to need it. If I didn't have a pint of ice cream in the freezer, I would get anxious. Then I started to feel shame when I would eat it. Like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Why do I have to have this? Like, what's your problem? Like, you don't have any willpower? Although I didn't binge eat the ice cream, I would eat enough to where my stomach would hurt or it would be so much sugar that it would affect my sleep. And even knowing this, I still kept eating it. Insert more shame. I would wake up feeling like crap with a sugar hangover while watching my ab lines slowly disappear and be replaced with full body inflammation, of course, as a result from the dairy and sugar. Yet I kept eating it almost every night. It was my dirty secret. Secrets like this keep us stuck in it because it fuels the shame. And all limiting beliefs, behaviors, habits, patterns, and addictions, they are all rooted in shame. And the more shame, the more that addiction, that person, place, thing, substance, whatever it is, really takes root. And those shame roots, man, they really grow. Everything shifted for me last week after I followed these steps. So I want you to listen to this life-changing episode and my remarkable guest, Melissa Paige. She's going to share openly about her addictions to food, alcohol, drugs, nicotine. Melissa is 12 years sober from drugs and alcohol and now 2 years free from both smoking and vaping nicotine. It's time to quit and stay quit so you can set yourself free. And let me just add this here. There is always a connection of why you're addicted to something. There's a lot to unpack there. And as I unpack it, I will share more in social media on Instagram at ProjectME with Tiffany. I'll share more in my emails to you guys. If you're not on my Secret Posse Weekly Digest, this is where I share very intimate personal stories that I don't share publicly on social media or necessarily on the podcast. This is where I give you incredible money manifestation and mindset tips and tricks and exercises. And they're all written by me and they're designed for you to digest in about 30 to 45 seconds or less. So you can swipe up. That's inside the show notes. You want to get on that list. I have another exciting thing coming soon, but I'm not ready to announce that yet. And this will be the last chance to work with me privately for a long time, as I'm going to be focused on my book and some other high-level projects. So you know that you want to work with me and you want me to help you grow and scale or even start your business. You're going to want to swipe up and apply for my exclusive 2-month private business coaching program. This is designed for both new entrepreneurs and established entrepreneurs. It's completely customized based on where you're at and where you want to go, where you want to grow to. And at different levels and different growths require different strategies. And just so you know, trying a bunch of different crap, studying what other people do, reverse engineering it, figuring it out on your own with Google, that only goes so far. And if that's really not working for you and you know it's not, and you want to stop wasting your time and energy on money on low-level shit, then you have to stop playing cheap with your life, with your business, and your goals. There's no way around it. Listen, I was a cheap ass too. It took me 5 years to hire my first business coach. It took me 3 years to even hire someone to help me with stuff on my first business, because I was like, well, I'm not making that much money yet. I want to save money. I need to do it myself and blah, 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 blah. All wrong, had it all backwards. I was just being a cheap ass. So I don't want you to make that same mistake, because the cheaper you're playing with your dreams, what do you think is going to happen? The cheaper the results. The bigger boss moves you make, that's when you get the bigger cash, the bigger results, the bigger opportunities, the bigger outcomes, and that life-changing freedom cash where you can go wherever you want, when you want, work when you want, work when you don't want, have no one to answer to, be able to work in pajamas that you should have washed 3 days ago, work from your couch, work from the grocery store, work from a beach, do whatever you want. You want that freedom. You want those options. You can't play cheap and get those. It just doesn't work that way. I know. I've tried. Swipe up. Links in the show notes. See you soon. If you're tired of hearing the same old basic mindset and motivational fluff talk, you've come to the right show. Welcome to Project Me with Tiffany Carter, the podcast, where we dish on everything from managing that crazy brain of yours to manifesting abundance to my straightforward, actionable steps that will make you major money online. Now, I'm not your typical multimillionaire entrepreneur. It takes a small village to keep my anxiety and depression in check. I'm inherently disorganized with an intense obsession with office supplies. Your girl here is a digital marketing content expert who's generated over $200 million in sales. I promise by tuning in twice a week, you will get a much needed refreshing dose of truth, clarity, and cash making advice. Now let's get to it. What up, my people, my posse, my fellow crazies? I'm your host, Tiffany Carter, and I have timed this episode and this interview for exactly when you need it to support the stuff that you're wanting to start doing and stop doing this year, because I know exactly what happens. We can tell ourselves all these things. We can make toasts with someone else and say we're going to. We can write them down. We can scream it from the rooftops. But then when we are done with that period where we kind of have that fresh energy around it, and then we start getting tested and the shit gets really messy and hard, that's where you need the support. You don't need my support in the beginning. It's like the beginning of a relationship with the freshie high where everything's easy and this person is amazing. We make excuses for them and we miss red flags. You guys do the same thing with yourself in this period. So I brought on a guest who has done it, doesn't just teach it, doesn't just talk about it on her podcast, but she has quit things and has started things. And these are things that are not easy to do. And she's stuck with them for many years. And we're going to get into how she's done that. Melissa Paige is on the show today. She is the podcast host of the Getting Soul Fit podcast. And Melissa has been sober since 2011. She just celebrated her sobriety birthday of 12 years. Congratulations, Melissa.
Thank you.
And this chick, she has quit smoking. She left an abusive relationship. You've really been able to quit. You had like pretty much the lineup of the hardest things to quit or the hardest things to leave or detach from. And you've done it and stuck with it. And let's start there. Let's start with the sobriety piece, right? Mm-hmm. The sober. So you're sober from what? Is it alcohol and any mood altering substance?
Yeah, it's alcohol and drugs. But what I was using mostly was alcohol and cocaine.
I mean, of course, cocaine. I mean, did it
Yeah.
make you skinny? It made me skinny.
It
I
made me
was,
skinny.
yeah,
It made me hyper.
yeah,
It made me feel more confident,
yeah. That was a solid combo. I just don't have the addict gene. Like I tell you guys, if I did, I'd be dead in a pile of cocaine somewhere. I have other issues, but not that. That's why I truly believe, and I'm curious on your stance on it. Do you believe that alcoholism or drug addiction is an actual like disease, and some people have that gene and hook, and other people don't?
I believe that everybody's different when it comes to addiction because I've heard of stories where people, they don't go balls to the wall crazy out the gate. I was the one that was like, first time I partied was very similar to the last time I partied. I believe it's a disease only because your brain reacts very differently to drugs and alcohol than someone who's just socially drinking. It's like once I start drinking, I literally cannot stop, even when I like want to. And I'm like, I will pace myself. It does not happen.
Would you say that, not that we're diagnosing anyone here, but from your experience, would you say what's a good way to tell if maybe there's an unhealthy relationship or an addictive relationship to some kind of substance, whether that's weed, whether that's alcohol, whether it's food, whether whatever? What would be like a way to for someone to check in with themselves and be like, maybe I need to explore this?
Yeah, it's not. I used to think it was a certain amount. Okay, so alcoholics drink every day, or alcoholics do this, or drug addicts do that. It's not that. It's really what happens when you start consuming it that differentiates the normal from the disordered, as they call it in psychology. Like, how does it make you feel? And how are you doing it? Are you doing something that you can't do in front of other people? Are you finding yourself lying about how often you're doing it? If there's a shame aspect to consuming, smoking, smelling, snorting, shooting, whatever, then that's a problem. If it's interfering with who you are as a person and who you're presenting to the world and your life, like when it starts affecting your relationships or your work or your day-to-day kind of a thing. If it's something that you're hiding, because that's when I noticed it was maybe a problem, is when I noticed that I started lying about how often I was drinking and partying. And even when I was telling the truth about how often, I was often lying about how much. It was always a couple, no matter if it was 10
I love when
12.
alcoholics say that. Or it's like, I have a lot of doctors as clients. Yeah. And they'll go to the doctor and the doctor's like, they ask you in the thing, like how many drinks a week? How often do you smoke cigarettes or whatever? And like smokers do the same thing. They'll be like, I have a few a day. Like a few is like a pack, basically.
Oh, yeah. And a couple is like a couple of bottles.
Totally.
It's not a couple. There's never two. I don't think I've ever had 2 drinks in my entire life.
Well, that's an interesting point. And that is one type of addiction. I just don't want any of you guys to go, well, I can have 2 and stop. And that doesn't mean I have an unhealthy attachment to it. That's not true. I'm doing a separate episode on this because it deserves one. And it sounds so trite, but I want you guys to hear this as Melissa and I go further on this. I have an addiction to ice cream, and it sounds funny. And I've even joked about it on the show. Mm-hmm. But the shit that you just said, lying about it, the shame around it, and that's a whole separate episode because I've unpacked it heavily with my coach and with my therapist. But I could put it down. It's not like I ate the whole pint. I can put it down. See, don't I sound like an addict, right? So it can't be a problem because I can take it or leave it. I don't have to have it every day. I can just have like half the pint.
Yeah.
So I want you guys to hear that. It can be with anything.
It can be with anything. It can be with relationships. I mean, toxic relationships even. Are you lying about how the relationship is to your friends to cover your partner's misgivings and how they're treating you? Are you putting up a facade? Anything toxic. When it comes to determining if something is healthy or not, I always go to shame. If it's something that brings me shame to my soul, then it's probably something that's not healthy for me.
Ooh, that just woke a bunch of people up.
Yeah.
Because when I spoke at Fitposium, which is where we met in person, I'm also in recovery for exercise addiction, which is a form of an eating disorder. And I know you're in the fitness industry and a cover model and all this stuff. So listen, I coach a lot of fitpreneurs. There's a lot of addiction in the fitness world.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I mean, it's like rampant. It's really wild, and not just eating disorders. I'm talking, like you said, relationships, people, places, and things.
Yep. Shopping,
spending, debt, all of it. I mean, I would lie because I knew once I progressed and I was spending 4 hours a day at the gym, like I knew that wasn't normal. It wasn't like, oh my God, she's a baller. She does 2 a days and she's here 2 hours a day. Like that. When it got to the point of 4 hours and everyone's like, oh, what are you competing for? And assuming it was my full-time profession, then you know what I did? I joined a separate gym. I had 3 gym memberships because then I was never in any one gym that long.
That's the hiding. And that's the thing. I would hang out with different groups of people. Okay. So group A were my more party monsters. And I would party with them. Those are my first choice friends when I was partying because they never judged me because they were like me. And then if they were busy, I'd go to group B. But group B is my normal drinkers. So I can only see them like once a week because if they saw me Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, that I have a problem. But so as long as what they're seeing is the truth. So it's kind of like if they only see me on a Saturday and I had a lot to drink, because I often did, I could be like, oh man, I haven't drank like that in a long time. And in their mind, they might believe it because they haven't seen me in a few weeks. And then say they wanted to stop drinking at the end of the night like normal people. And I wanted to continue partying. I go to texting group C because they were still up. So I was constantly, and I was going to different bars and I was going to different liquor stores because people working at the liquor stores knew me by name, which is it's not good when they know you by name at a liquor store. When
no,
you don't want to get a hello, how you been, Melissa, when you're walking in. It's not like that's embarrassing.
It's wild. You got to picture her being this way. Go check out her Instagram at the Melissa Paige, Paige, because you are incredibly like healthy. And I mean, I'm sure you're still fucked up. You have to still be fucked up. So let's go back to like your rock bottom.
Yeah.
How was your process if we start out with alcohol and drugs where you're like, I fucking can't do this anymore? Yeah. How did you get to that point? Because that's where it all starts for any form of some behavior, some substance, something that all of us need to stop. We have to get to that point first.
Yeah. Okay. I had friends and family that recognized when I was only 19, 20 years old. So I had been using and drinking since I was 15, and I was going to raves and that sort of thing. And my mom was very concerned because, I went from being like a straight A student wearing, well, now it's popular, mom jeans. So I was wearing mom jeans when they weren't popular. And then I went from that to within one summer wearing baggy jeans, Jinkos pants, big 90s pants with like chains and piercings and dyeing my hair. So my mom was concerned. But as soon as I turned 20, the drinking took off, the cocaine took off. And when I turned 21, it was almost like here's your pass to do as much as you want. And my biggest thing was, well, drinking is legal, so it's not a problem. But people thought I had a problem before I had a problem. And they recognized that I was always embarrassing myself. Or when I would say I'd have a couple, like it was always more. This continued. And I tried to drink like a normal person. I read somewhere online that so for you to be a normal drinker, and this isn't true, but this is what I read, you drink 1 drink per hour. So I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to a bar and I'm going to drink 1 drink per hour. And I asked the bartender for a pen. And he gave me a pen, and I was literally marking tally marks on my hand, like 1 drink per hour. And by, I don't know, got there at 9, by 1 o'clock in the morning, I had 1 big fat tally mark on my hand because I was so wasted. It's like anything I try to do to monitor my drinking, it never worked. And I did get sick and tired of it. And I quit in 2008 or 9. But because I didn't ask for help, I tried to quit on my own. And you guys, if you have an addiction, if you're addicted to something, trying to quit on your own is
it's a lie, but it's a lie. It won't work.
It's a lie. It's the equivalent of going, the engine in my car is fucked up, so I'm just going to drive it differently. I'm the problem. I can't solve. I can't ask for help and tell help how to help me. I need to actually ask for help, And so that lasted for 7 months or so. And then when I went back out, it was really, really bad. But I was only out that time for like several months. And within several months, a lot of the things that I said I would never do, I did. A lot of the things that I said would never happen to me, they did.
Like what?
Like I got assaulted by a friend. I got robbed. I got a gun pulled on me in a bar for running my mouth by a man that had just come home from the army. He was not well. His friend said he had PTSD, but I got in a bar fight. I'm not a big badass girl, I'm not like this. So for me to I don't know. But yeah, I got in a bar fight with a man. And this was all in like a matter of a few months. And just the last night I was drinking, December 31st, 2010, it was like any other party. I was with my so-called friends. And I just remember feeling like, I don't want to be here anymore. I went to the bathroom to get away from the crowd because I knew I was about to cry and everybody else was having a good time. And it's like, how do you tell a group of friends, everybody's having a good time, like, Happy New Year, it's coming, the new year's coming. And I'm sitting here going, I want to die right now, And so I started crying and I just kept saying over and over again. And in my head, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. I was like, it's not. And honestly, the last night I drank and used, it was the weirdest thing. I did a lot of pills that night. I did a lot of cocaine. I drank a lot of alcohol. I didn't eat anything. And I smoked a shit ton of cigarettes. And I literally felt every single moment of that night. I was like, I couldn't put the entire world of drugs in my system and numb out. It was I felt like it was almost like that moment when you realize your abuser is actually abusing you. It's almost like that. My alcohol had turned its back on me. I quit.
It was no longer, there was no payoff anymore.
There was no payoff. It was not working. The drugs weren't working. And I called my mom, my poor mom. Oh my God. And I called her crying and I was like, I want to die. Can you please come pick me up? My poor mom. And I was hyperventilating. And my mom is a codependent. I love her to death, but she's a codependent. And so she was always putting the rug beneath my feet so that I landed softly and consoling me. I'm sorry you feel depressed, because she loves me and she didn't know how else to do it, And she looked at me and she said, it was the first time she said it. She said, my hands are tied right now. I can't help you anymore.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed that she was able to do that.
So impressed. And I was like, at the time, I was like, what? That's messed up. But I've told her over and over again, I mean it. It is exactly what I needed to hear. That the show was over. That every door I opened was gone. There was no more, here's some money. There was no more, let me hold you. There was no more, okay, it's okay, baby. I got you. Everything is gone. I was emotionally bankrupt. And there were only 2 options at that point. I was like, I'm either going to die or I'm going to live. And if I'm going to live, I can't do it the way I've been doing it. So I called my mom. She comes, picks me up. She tells me, I'm done helping you. She says, call your father. My father at this point was in recovery. And so I thought, okay, he'll understand. And I called him. I told him I want to kill myself. And he's like, that's good. I'm like, what? He's like, I need you to go to a support group. And I don't want you to call this number again until you do. And he hung up the phone.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was it. The next day I went to a support group and I asked for help, and a woman started helping me. And then I ended up getting a therapist, and I just started doing honestly, at that point, like if that woman that was helping me with my recovery had said, I want you to, I don't know, bark in public, like I would have, I would have barked. I was like, I'll do anything it takes to just not feel this, because I don't even recognize myself, And so that was it for me.
How did you, and this is like a big question, but how did you maintain your sobriety? Because they call it, you guys, like in the rooms of 12 step, but again, this applies to anything. Mm-hmm. They call it the pink cloud. That's why I said it's like the freshy high of a relationship, where it's the same thing with like a New Year's goal. And I'm not going to be in relationships like this anymore. And I'm going to follow through and stop procrastinating. And you get this high, and that's great. That works for a while. But usually you end up getting tested and you have very hard days and low moments. Mm-hmm. What kept you sober during those moments?
And see, I'm so glad you mentioned the pink cloud, because so when you first, and everyone's different. So obviously take my experience with just my experience. It may not look exactly the same, but the cycles are very similar, in which you decide you've had enough. You want to start a new journey. It's a little hard at first because it's different. And then you start feeling amazing. You feel so good. Like everything, the colors and the sky are brighter, and it's everybody's so happy and you're so happy. And then as your brain is healing, because that's what it's doing, after several months, you start going through a second withdrawal, which no one talks about. It's called pause.
I've never heard this. Okay.
Pause, post-acute, PA, withdrawal. I need to look at what it stands for, but it's basically when you are, and this is specifically for alcohol, but it's the same for drugs too. It's like several months into sobriety, your brain is healing, right? It's starting to really heal. Well, which is beautiful, but healing is painful. Okay. Because all these neurons are fighting. And whereas, the drugs and alcohol were forcing your brain to increase dopamine and make you happy. It's not doing that anymore. It has to do it on its own now. So as you get to equilibrium, your brain is healing, but it doesn't feel good. So you go through a withdrawal. It's a second withdrawal. It's all emotional, where, for me, I couldn't sleep. I was irritable. I couldn't sleep. I was short-tempered, very impatient, very depressed, crying a lot, feeling like the walls were caving in. And I was like, and this was around 7 or 8 months of sobriety. And I was like, what is going on? I thought I was losing my mind. And the woman that helped me in the 12-step program, who was helping me, she was guiding me through recovery. She explained, okay, it's pause. So just knowing that I wasn't going crazy, she's like, if you
like knowing it was part of it.
Yes, it's normal. This is actually a good sign that your brain is healing. And did it take it away? No. But what it did was it gave me hope that, okay, as long as I just do it one day at a time. And people say one day at a time, but there were moments where it was 1 minute at a time. There were nights that I was looking at the clock on a Friday, which is always the biggest party day of the week for me. And it was like 1:45 in the morning. And so my hands would start physically sweating, because I was like, I've got about 15 more minutes until I'm safe, because the last call for alcohol in North Carolina is 2 a.m., like a lot of places. And then there were days where I'm like, wow, 4 days have gone by and I haven't wanted to drink or use drugs. But it just, you go through that second, and it's right after the pink cloud.
You guys, I looked it up. It's post-acute withdrawal syndrome.
Yes.
Syndrome, excuse me. Post-acute withdrawal syndrome, the lingering effects of drug and alcohol withdrawal. Yeah. And this is, again, this also is for anything. This really applies to relationships.
Oh, yeah. It's toxic relationships work very similar to, and actually they've run, not to get all nerdy, but they've run fMRI scans, and they've determined that, or discovered that the brain, the way it looks on the scan is very similar, whether it's alcohol, drugs, pornography, shopping addiction,
ice cream,
exercise, women, whatever, toxic relationships. It doesn't matter gender, right? And it does. It works the same way. It's that things hurting you, But the high is just, it just makes all these empty promises. It's so shiny,
Yeah, that's a great way to say it. It's shiny. And then what happens is like your brain, the diseased part of your brain, the addicted part of your brain lies to you. Well, he's not here. He's not that bad.
Yeah.
Oh, well, no one's perfect. I mean, listen, I can go on. I've said them all because I've been in a lot of toxic and abusive relationships. So you've run the gamut of addictions. I mean, and you've been in, right? And you were in a relationship with a narcissist. Is that correct?
Yes.
And this significant relationship of yours, when you look back and now that, you're studying psychology in school and everything, what are the similarities that your brain did in that relationship when you knew? There's a certain point when you're in a relationship with a toxic person, whether they're a narcissist or not, or even an unfulfilling relationship. There's a certain point where this isn't healthy. I shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah. People talk about how when it comes to toxic relationships, the first month is significant. And then the first 3 months is also significant because people can only hold on a mask for so long. But I'll go before that, scratch the time frame, because I'm dating somebody now and he's healthy. And I'm seeing the differences in the way that I feel. And it sounds very woo-woo, but I truly believe this, like, listen to your body with anything in life. Your body will tell you before your mind has time to go. Your body will tell you what's going before your ego, your ego tells you, no, but, and does all these like circus flips. In a healthy situation, it feels more peace. It feels more real, genuine. Whereas when I was dating somebody that my therapist believed was actually a psychopath.
That's nice.
I know, it was great. I'm being sarcastic, but in the very beginning, like even before the first 2 months or whatever, there were things that he was saying that sounded nice, but my body, looking back, my body cramped up. And that same feeling I got the first time someone cut out some cocaine for me, where it's like, it looked nice because people in the room were beautiful. I know I sound shallow right now, but it looked very glam.
Yeah.
Glam, right? Like everybody seemed happy and like I was welcome and I was a part of something cool, right? And I knew that this something was not good for me. I knew it. My body was clenching. This lie that was being presented to me, I was buying into it because my ego told me I needed this to be. So the similarities are that your body will tell you out the gate if something's not right. It's just
why do you think it is? Why do you think it is so tough, whether it's a toxic friendship or a romantic relationship or a familial relationship? Why is it so tough for so many of us to detach, not even like go no contact, which in some cases that's necessary, but even kind of like pull away? Why do you think it is so tough for us to keep taking that terrible behavior that feels like shit over and over and over again?
I think a lot of it ties into whether it's any kind of addiction, right? Like you lose a big part of who you are in it. So that I think part of the fear is that when you remove yourself from that situation, who are you really? It's like you have to start over. And I don't mean like a little bit, like a geographical. You have to undo everything you've ever thought and you have to trash it and literally start over. And even good change, a lot of us, whether you're in an addict or not, like a lot of people are scared I'm scared of change. Even good change is scary. And so to realize that you've been living a lie, it's like, oh shit. So I've got to start all over. I've got to literally figure out what my truth is, and some of it ties into self-esteem as well. Like some people, you've heard of the old people fear success. It's the reason why is because it's that, do I deserve it? Do I deserve a healthy relationship? Do I deserve to be sober? A lot of people think that they don't deserve it. It's almost like
but then there's people going, I know I deserve better. I know I don't want this. I know I'm meant for more. Yet they slip back in. It's like it's familiar.
Yeah. It's the comfort. It's the painful comfort zone. I mean, it's like doing something different is scary, even if it's good, and I feel like sometimes we stick to our, and I still do that. Like I've got a phobia of heights, and I know, okay, the way to work on that is to face it, so I am facing it, but it's hard. But this phobia is keeping me from hiking certain places and certain things that I really want to do. And I know that. And the only way to do it is through it. But it's scary. So I'm going to sit over here in my little comfort zone and be upset that I can't go on mount whatever because I'm afraid. Or am I going to be like, screw my fear, I'm going to do it anyway. I don't care how it looks. I'm just going to put one foot in front of the other. That's really, we have to get to a place of getting sick of your own shit. When you get sick of your own excuses, that's a perfect place to start something.
And that's where, like, your father, who was in recovery, said, I'm glad you're at this spot. And I say that when people come to me, for business coaching, and they've been kind of toe dipping in it, like half-assing it, not really going for it, right? That'd be like half getting sober. There's no such thing.
No.
Half getting healthy, half quitting smoking, half leaving a relationship. I'm sorry that this is where there is black and white. It's like
there's black and white. You have to choose,
right? You have to. Yeah. You can't be. The middle is actually, in my opinion, the worst part.
It is.
And I've lived in it with a lot of things, right? I call it that messy middle. Yeah. That is so exhausting. And I'll say, I'm so happy you're at this point where you're about to quit. You're so fucking sick of yourself, because that's where we can make shit happen, is at that point. But what I find so interesting, and if I'm like going way too, I don't think I'm going too deep with you, because it seems like you like to go deep with this.
Yeah.
What I notice happens with people, whatever it is they're wanting to stop doing, the human brain must look for the path of least resistance, like the easy way out. So I see these quote unquote rehab facilities, these detox centers, California sober, the fantasy marketing of getting fit, right? I mean, that's as old as time. The fantasy marketing of getting rich quick. And it lures and distracts people from actually doing the thing, because they're looking for the easy way to quit this thing. And I would love to hear your thoughts on why the hell how can people tell if they're doing it? Have you ever done that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've said it over and over again. We live in a drive-through society. It's quick. Here's the thing. And that's how you know if it's real or not. If it's quick results are not real. They are not long lasting. Bear with me on this. Quitting something is easy as shit. It's not quitting that's hard. It's the staying quit that's hard. Anybody can quit. You can quit. I don't want to smoke anymore. Boom, we're done. But what's going to happen in a few hours? What's going to happen the next day? What's going to happen next week? Because life doesn't stop happening because I decided to get sober. It's not like these butterflies show up and unicorns start flying around. And next thing you know, I don't have to pay taxes and I don't have stress at work or whatever. Like life still happens. I just have to navigate it very, very differently. But definitely being at some sort of a bottom is a wonderful place to be in. You're the most teachable at that point, because you have been humbled to being open to a different way of thinking. But staying stopped is the biggest issue in a drive-through society, where every time you get on social media, you see filtered images and you can be depressed as shit. But if you take this pill, or if you fast.
That you've got to be honest with yourself about that. And we've all fallen for it. Like listen, I used to buy that fit tee. I did all sorts of, I had the shake weight, the ab bell.
I had the shake weight.
Yep. I mean, I was like, what was I thinking was going to happen with that? That's
yeah. I had the shake weight. I had the Sport Elect belt. It was a belt that you put on that like shook your abs.
Yes. So it was like, it's like, and their marketing was, it's like you've done 1,000 sit-ups.
And it's not, you guys. Like,
yeah, it's like anything that sounds too good to be true. Like you said, if it's promising quick, if you want real staying power and lasting results, it's not quick.
No.
And what you've done is, I've noticed with people who have stopped things or started things that they've been avoiding, is they set themselves up with a great deal of support. So I would love to hear your wisdom around support. Like, what do you like? You're choosing to, go get an advanced degree now. Like, you had to set yourself up for support for starting something, or for your fear of heights. You set yourself up for support. What does that look so people can go, okay, how can I create this for myself?
Yeah, it's once you decide, don't ever be afraid to ask for help. Actually ask for help. And then also tell people that you trust, and this is key, people that you trust in your life, just a few close people, what your plan is, because there will be a time where you're not feeling as good and you're feeling like, I don't really want to do this anymore. And that's when you reach out to your network to really, because we're not all like supermen, superwomen. We're not all meant to be strong all the damn time. And a lot of us feel that way, but there's going to be a moment when you need someone stronger than you to be like, oh, but you have this, you do. Like, let's talk about it. You're in your head right now. Let's go get coffee and let's have a discussion or whatever, It's good to that's been vital for me, is having the support and having people that know where I want to be and know what I have to do to achieve that, and know that I'm not cured. I'm not saved from my addiction. It's in remission, if anything, right now.
That's an amazing word to use for addiction, for codependency. Mm-hmm. It's in remission. I've never heard anyone say that before. I love that. It really is in remission. And if you are not managing it, I promise you, it'll start popping up in all different areas of your life. You'll start kind of putting your needs aside. You'll start people pleasing. You'll start not speaking up for yourself. You'll start telling yourself stories like, oh, my kids really need me right now, so I have to wait to start the podcast until we all come up with different things. I would love to hear, because we know this is the time of year where people are like, I'm gonna have less carbs and I'm gonna stop smoking cigarettes, and isn't it called dry January? That's become a thing. Yeah, you know what? It irritates me, and I'm sure it does. I'm sure it does help a lot of people, but it's also giving the illusion of, if you're just dry for January, like, you're okay. Well, if you're feeling you need a dry January, there might be just saying there might be something to look at there. But this is the time of year, right, where the gym is like freaking packed, and then we have to wait. And you said it's like a month and a half. You're right. It's probably right after Valentine's where it starts dying down.
And don't get me wrong. Like, I do, like, I was new at the gym at one point, so I do, on one hand, the ego part of me is like, I don't want to wait on equipment. I don't. But on the other hand, it is good to see people that are new, really, really showing up for themselves. That's amazing. But yeah, it's almost like it's that pink cloud. It's like, it's easy in the beginning in certain ways. It's hard because it's new, but it's easy because you've got this adrenaline.
There's a high. I'm sure there's I'm sure there's like dopamine and shit going on, which is great because that gets us to actually start. Mm-hmm. But what happens when you had a night where you didn't sleep, you're fighting with a significant other, you're really tired, and then you skip the gym, or you really want that glass of wine? What do you have in place there? So what did you do, and what do you do today during those times where you feel that pull of like, I need something?
Yeah. And I think it's like different things. I mean, having a support network. So instead of picking up a drink, I call somebody, you know, to me, smoking was harder than anything I've ever quit.
This is why if you go to rooms of like AA, I mean, this is like vape city and cigarette city.
Yeah.
And when I saw that on your Instagram, you guys, I'm linking her Instagram and her podcast in the show notes. So you can just swipe up and access that. But when I saw you quit smoking, I'm like, this bitch has quit. Like that's impressive.
Yeah, it was hard. That was hard.
And why did you feel that was important? Because some people, were you a vapor or an actual ciggy smoker?
I was an actual ciggy smoker, but I would vape too. But it was kind of like, I started feeling that thing where I was feeling shame. I was hiding it. I didn't like the way it smelled. Also, the thing is, I scared myself. And that's really what it came down to. People were like, oh, you save so much money. Yeah, but money isn't going to be a reason for me to quit something. I mean, I'm not saying I don't have all the money in the world. I'm not rich.
Right.
But money in and itself is not a reason for me to, I wish it was, but it's not a reason for me to quit something. I emotionally was sick and tired of it, kind of like with alcohol and drugs. And I scared myself. I started wheezing when I was breathing at night. And I'm like, I'm way too young to be like wheezing. My God, I work out. And so I'm like, how am I going to go to the gym and run on the treadmill or whatever and like lift weights and then get in my car, drive around the corner because I can't let anyone at the gym see me do this. Light up a cigarette, like leaving the gym. Who does that? And then like on the way to the gym, I get my coffee and I'm like, smoking a cigarette and then spraying the shit out of my car, pulling in the parking lot. And by the way, when you spray yourself, you still smell like smoke.
Yeah. P.S. Right. P.S. Everybody. We think our brains tell us like, nobody knows, right? Nobody knows that I'm overeating at night. Nobody knows, nobody knows I've gone back to this guy again for the 20th time and I'm lying about it. I used to do that all the time. I'd go back to like the toxic cycle with the guy. And I knew I wore out everyone in my life of going, oh my God, can you believe he did this? So then I told nobody. It was my secret, which secrets keep you sick, guys. And I told no one. And then when the shit would blow up, I had no one to reach out to because I was so horrified.
Yeah.
Because it was like a secret. But there's also a high in the secret too.
Yeah.
It's like a sneaky, like when I used to sneak out the window when I was, in high school, like there was a high to being sneaky as well. I had an addiction to that. Yeah,
it's the it's a lifestyle, really. It's that addictive lifestyle where you're sneaking and you're lying to yourself. The biggest lie you'll ever tell when you're stuck in an addictive cycle is a lie you tell yourself to make it okay.
Can you give some examples of what that might look like? Whether it's someone who is wanting to go to another level with their business or follow through on health stuff or start dating again or quit smoking, whatever it is, what are some examples that might come up in their head?
That I'm okay when I'm not. I know I'm not okay. I'm okay and I don't need help. Thank you very much. I got it all figured out. The most successful people in the universe have coaches. Coaches have coaches.
Yeah, if your coach if your coach or your therapist, by the way, if your coach doesn't have a coach, and if your therapist, well, it's a law, I believe, for a therapist to have a therapist. It's like a requirement in most countries. Do you not work with this person? That's a huge red flag to me.
Yes, because I heard somebody say this one time in a meeting. The people that say that the thing that's the scariest thing about relapse is the thing about I've got it. It's like when you start to believe that you have it, you are further away than you'll ever be. When you think you've got it all figured out and you're not teachable anymore, that is a scary way to live. Because
the figuring it out. It's like, okay, well, I can just listen to this podcast and I can kind of watch other
Yeah.
people. And I know I just need to do X, Y, and Z, and I'll get myself to do it. It's a lie, because if it was that simple, you would have already been fucking doing it.
Yeah. And the other thing to watch out for is the tomorrow thing. I'll do it when. I'll do it when, it's almost I'll be happy when, then you'll never be happy, because the when is the now. And the now is the future. The when is the now is the future. If you're not going to do it now, you're not going to do it on Monday. That's the truth. You won't do it on Monday. And if you wait until January 1st to do something, you might not ever do it. That's the reality. Why not now? Why not on a fucking Wednesday at 2:00 in the afternoon? I quit smoking I think it was a Wednesday.
That'd be a really great title of a book.
Yeah.
When it was Wednesday afternoon, I quit smoking. That'd be a great addiction title, because what a great point you have. Like, why can't it be why does it have to be on a Monday? Yeah. I don't get it.
It's these rules that it's almost like we trick ourselves into thinking. It's a control thing. We trick ourselves into thinking that we have control, again, where we don't have control. If we did have control, we wouldn't need to think out loud, I need to have control. It's like, you don't think. It's
kind of like when someone goes, can I be honest with you? I'm like, please don't, because whatever you're about to say is going to be shit. But please, if you're saying, oh, I've got this, I have it figured out, that's a red flag. That's concern for you. There's a lot of people listening, and I know you've been in this spot. I know I have more than once. I might cry, but where I didn't have the support, and I didn't know where to get it. Like, I had collected, right, because of my own shit subconsciously, being a hardcore codependent people pleaser. I attracted a lot of narcissists, users, takers. My life was filled with it. And I had a therapist, but therapy only goes so far. And I'm all about therapy, but that's not enough, folks. You need to have that way more support than that. And I didn't know where to get it. And I know I'm not the only one who has felt that way. Can you give some suggestions? Where to start getting support? Because usually if we found ourselves in a jam about something, you probably don't have support, proper support in your life.
Proper support. Like I don't know, luckily my mom, she's an angel, but she's not an addict. And my dad is an addict, but my dad doesn't have the experience dating a narcissistic person, because my dad is narcissistic.
That's fun.
So nothing, we're cool now, but so what I had to do is I went online and I just Google is my friend. And where do I go to get support dealing with narcissistic abuse? And I was floored. That was a thing. I heard it somewhere. I didn't even know that was a thing. All these support, free groups, free. And I'm like, what? And I went on, and if it wasn't a thing, why are there thousands upon thousands of people in this group? It's same thing with quitting smoking. I Googled, I need an app. I need a community of people that I can go to, and not just people because your friends that haven't gone through maybe exactly what you're going through, they're going to be loving and supportive of you. But it's important that you surround yourself with people that have gone through what you're going through, and maybe they're a few steps ahead, so that you can know what to expect and they can kind of help you, so you're not walking alone. But for me, narcissistic abuse recovery groups help me. And then for drinking, the 12-step programs are essential in my life 12 years later. They're vital. And the good thing is, no matter where you go, they're there. And the good thing is, if you are in a situation where you cannot get to a meeting, you can go online and go for Zoom. And you can be in Paris in an hour. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what language they're speaking your language, because they know what you're going through. So you're not alone. And they understand the pain and the agony that you're dealing with. And they also understand the hope that's coming and how to achieve that hope. So the biggest, and it's all free. There's no cost. There's no membership.
But you had to physically type this in the keyboard and find it. And then you had to take action, which can feel very intimidating, awkward, humbling. then you had to log into the Zoom or actually show up at that in-person support group.
Oh yeah.
Or hire the coach or spend the money or whatever it is.
No, and I've honestly, I did what I needed to do to be okay. And I got to a place in my life, and I'm still in this place, thank God. I don't give a shit what that looks like. I don't care if someone thinks I'm fucking crazy. I had to do what I had to do to be okay. 2020 hit. I had just gotten out of an abusive narcissistic relationship. The whole world shut down. There was nowhere to go. I was stuck in my head. I was also quitting smoking. It was or trying to quit at that time. It was a shit show. So I was lying in my bed one night and I was bawling my eyes out trying to figure out what the hell happened and how could I have been so blindsided, because I'm not a quote stupid person. I'm very intuitive. How can I have not picked up on the signs? And blah, blah, blah. And I started Googling narcissistic abuse recovery. And then several months later, I was like, support for quitting smoking. And I did it. I mean, I got the support with support groups, but I'm just going to be transparent. I hired a spiritual coach. I hired a life coach, a spiritual coach, a dating coach. What else did I hire? A fucking psychic. She's real. Yes, I believe in those. And every moment or every person that I hired, at the moments that I hired, I did need it. I needed it. They helped me in ways that I'm
100% with you. Like, these are regular line items on my, if you want to look at like life expenses or business expenses. I have 3 coaches going at a time, plus a therapist, and I'm in support groups.
Yeah.
And I have zero fucks about it. Like, this keeps me alive, and not just alive, but it keeps me actually like happy. Yeah. Like happy and abundant and my best self. So if that costs me 10 grand a month, I'll pay that. Even when I didn't have that kind of money, I would find a way to make that happen, because otherwise I'm a fucking mess.
You know what? Here's the thing. There are very expensive coaches out there, and they're worth it. And there are coaches out there that do payment plans, and they're worth it. And not every coach is good. That's why you have to do your research, look at testimonials and stuff. But where there's a will, there's a way. And when people say, but I can't afford it, let me ask you a question. This is a really quick calculation. Do you go to Starbucks every day? How many Prime movies do you rent at home at night when you're fucking depressed? Exactly. How many times do you go out to eat? Exactly. Oh, you don't feel good about yourself? You want to buy the red bottoms? That's $900. That is a fucking payment to save your life. I had to cut out a lot of shit that I did not want to cut out while I was doing these things that people were like, some of my friends were like, what are you doing? You're hiring a spiritual coach? Hell yes, I am. Hell yes, I am. You better believe I am. I'm not smoking $10 a pack cigarettes anymore. I'm fucking hiring a coach. Laugh at me all you want. I don't care. I'm going to save my life right now. I don't care.
Exactly. And sharing things with people who might not get it, that's a sneaky form of setting yourself up for feeling shame.
Yeah.
So I just want to point that out. Not that you're always going to be able to catch it, but maybe just take a moment and like pause, even for when I pause even for 3 seconds versus just instantly being excited, because you're excited. You want to share what you're doing or whatever. I take 3 seconds now, most times. Sometimes I fuck up and I go, who's the right person? I want to share it. That's great. Who's the right person to share it to? Who's safe, right? Is it? And sometimes the answer is, for me, it's like, share it with God, share it with the universe, right? Sometimes it's not somebody. And it's not to say that other person who I wanted to share it with is bad, but they might not get it. Like you said, like, I mean, I hired an subconscious energy coach who's amazing, who I've had on the show. There's a lot of people who think that's whack.
Exactly. My spiritual coach, she did readings with me. She coached me for 3 months, and she broke apart these false things I was saying in my head, stuck on repeat. It was a PTSD symptom. And my therapist was helping with one part of it. And she was doing readings every day, energy cleansing, like all of it. And it helped me feel lighter. It helped me find myself again, and it's like, I wouldn't change that for the world. And anybody that, I need an energy coach, I would refer her in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
you know, and some of my friends were very supportive. And then I learned really quickly, some of the friends that were like, that's weird. Like, why would you pay for somebody like remote? She doesn't, how do you know she's doing her? I can feel it. That's how I know.
And that's all that matters is, you know, you can listen to your body. And, you know, if someone else is that worried about what you're spending your own money on, well, then they should also be worried about paying your bills. Okay.
Yes. Yes. Because, yeah.
This was such a great, honest discussion. Thank you for truly like all the work that you've done on yourself, all the investments you've made, and, you know, all these healers and coaches, because this comes through you now, right? Like you're paying it forward now. All your work in recovery, all the fucking shit times, even the times when you were wasted, like you just poured in and have helped so many people on this episode as accumulation of all of the stuff that you've done. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
I just want to like give you like a solid nod, like as a fellow survivor, like, girl, you're doing it. And
you are too.
It's beautiful.
When I finally met you in person, I was like, oh my God, I was on fire, you guys. I was like, who is this firecracker that I've been watching on social media for like over a year now, I think. All your posts, I'm like,
yeah, because I can see you.
Yeah.
Because like you guys always hear me say, like attracts like I can see, I can recognize the work you've done because I've done the work.
Yeah.
And I want to acknowledge that. Like it's fucking badass. And I love the shit out of it. And thank you for coming on. You guys listen to her show, the Getting Soul Fit podcast. It's in the show notes. Go say hi to her, DM her, take a screenshot of this episode. If you loved it, share it with a friend that's going through it. And she's at the Melissa Paige, Paige. If you're multitasking, you can just tag me at ProjectME with Tiffany and I'll make sure I reshare it and tag her. Thank you so much, babe.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please write a 5-star review on iTunes. Not only will this make me super happy, but it will allow more listeners to find our special show. Simply help me help others.